Hey everybody, it's Lee. We are getting ready to start here in just a minute. So again, make sure you grab something to write with. We're just having one minor technical snafu. Hey everybody, it's Lee. We are getting ready to start here in just a minute. So again, make sure you grab something to write with. Hey everybody, we're going to be starting in just 1 minute here. We just got to do one other thing in the audio. I'll explain in just a second. Hey there everybody, how you doing? We just hang on 1 second. We're just having one minor weird thing that happened. How's everybody doing today? Hope you're doing well. I got to say, in Washington, D.C. right now, it's an absolutely beautiful day. Did you take us off?
Okay, it's back on.
Okay, there we go. Hi, how's it going? So one of the things we're doing is I have a keynote, like a PowerPoint what's that?
Game.
Down?
Yeah, down.
How's that?
Good.
That better? Okay. So we have a keynote, like a PowerPoint presentation that we'll be bringing up. Let's just try to bring up the first slide, Jack, so we can make sure that that works. And then I'm trying to do one other thing here. There we go. Yep. Okay. So hopefully, I really mean it. Grab something to write with, because you're going to have to write stuff down in a minute here. But let's get rolling on this. This is going to be, it's a little after 3 right now. We are live here on the East Coast from Washington, D.C. at my office. And first off, thanks everybody for joining me. I hope you're having a good day where you are. Since you're watching this, there's going to be a replay of this later, but still grab something to write with, because we're going to do a little bit of work later here. So let's get rolling. Let me just first talk about who this is for. Are you a political or news writer who either is already doing political blogging, reporting, video work, or is just ready to go to the next level, right? Maybe you're not sure where to start yet, right? That's what this is for. In case you don't know who I am, I'm just going to go through this quickly. My name is Lee Stranahan, and hang on one second. I got to switch one thing here. I've been making my living as a working writer, researcher, reporter, and now radio host for 10 years. I've got a unique resume in that I worked in Hollywood for a long time. I have a background in video production, audio production. I worked on the TV show Access Hollywood for about 5 years. As a reporter for 10 years now, I've been a featured writer for 2 of the top political websites, one on the right and one on the left in the world, the Huffington Post and Breitbart News. I was the lead investigative reporter at Breitbart News, and I was a regularly featured front page blogger over at the Huffington Post. And I'm currently the host of a drive time radio show here in Washington, D.C. It's on 105.5 FM and AM 1390. It's called Fault Lines with Nixon and Stranahan here on Radio Sputnik. So one of the reasons I said to write stuff down, I want to give you my contact info. I'm going to give this to you again later. But if you have any questions, I don't have a way to see them right now. The easy email is lee@stranahan.com. Okay? And so just my first name at my last name. And the phone number here is 202-888-1750. Okay? So first off, write that down. I'm going to give it to you again later. But since you're taking the time to be here, I want you to have that information. Now, I've been, like I say, working as a reporter for 10 years, working on big stories, but I had some help. I had a partner and a mentor, and you've probably heard of him, Andrew Breitbart, who unfortunately passed away back in 2012. But I want to show a video clip where Andrew's talking about me, and I got to say, I hadn't seen, when I was preparing for this webinar today, I hadn't watched this in a while, and it's really emotional for me to watch it because I talk about Andrew frequently, but to hear him, I wasn't at this event. I found this clip online. To hear Andrew say this stuff about me is, especially with his loss and especially with some of the other stuff he says about where he saw with his 15. Now, you got to remember, Andrew Breitbart, people know about Breitbart News now, but he also, the Huffington Post was his idea when he worked for Arianna, and he worked for the Drudge Report when they broke the Lewinsky story. So Andrew's been at the center of digital journalism. He was there at the Drudge Report, Huffington Post, and Breitbart News, 3 major events in the history of digital journalism. Here's what Andrew had to say about me, and this is one of the things I'm gratified about because I'm the only person in the world who got Andrew saying this about him. So here's that. Let's hear that.
The most successful journalistic venture I've ever done was with a guy who called me up last year in November, a left-wing blogger from MoveOn.org, Daily Kos, and the Huffington Post named Lee Stranahan, and we just started talking for about 4 hours. I was like, wow, we have a lot in common here. I mean, we may disagree on policy, and the 2 of us endeavored, and we're doing a documentary together on this Pigford black farmer settlement, and it's a very complicated story, but we've basically been meeting with a lot of black farmers in the South who got screwed over by the USDA and by lawyers, and the 2 of us have been working together, and I'd like to think that we're moving away from the adolescent phase of people on the right and the left being so at each other to realizing unique ways that we can work together, because we're moving away from, I believe this to the core of my being, I've been doing this for 15 years.
Are we back? Yeah, so anyway, there's Andrew, and having Andrew say is the best professional experience of his life is pretty gratifying. But I want to talk about you and your dreams and your goals. So just if people aren't familiar with me, which not everybody is, I want to show you that. What I want to do here is I want to show you the secret that's going to turbocharge your work and your career and get your work noticed time and time again. And this is a big secret, and a lot of people don't do it. Now, this webinar that we're doing here is only going to be available for a short time for reasons you'll see later. So please watch it while you can. We're going to send you the URL later to preview it. But the limited time is because, as you'll see when I get to the end here,
I'm just letting you know, the clip got cut out.
What's that?
The clip got cut out, so it wasn't the full clip.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. But it got the my son Jack's telling me something. But he got the beginning part of what Andrew was saying, right? Yeah, that's the part. So the limited time is because, as you'll see, I'm offering something today to you that I don't offer often, and that we're not going to, once it's gone, it's gone. There's only 2 slots. But what I'm going to do in this webinar is share with you one of my most successful career secrets. This is the thing that it's the reason Andrew said that about me. It's what I do. And the one technique we're going to talk about here, and then we're going to do a little bit of work on it, is the key that's allowed me to make a living as a writer, researcher, and now talk show host for years. And this is a topic that I'm passionate about, and if you follow me, some people actually would say I'm obsessive about it. But before we get into this, I really want to give you a warning here. What I'm about to talk about is not for everybody. So I'm just going to tell you that right up front. This is the path less taken. And this technique is not going to be, if you came here to the webinar right now looking for some magic formula that helps lazy people beat the system, this ain't for you. And I don't want to waste any more of your time. We've been in less than 10 minutes. But I don't want to waste any more of your time. If that's what you're looking for, some magic shortcut, I don't have one for you. Now, if you're still here, what I'm about to tell you is only for people who are willing to put in the work that I have found long-term success requires. And in fact, the whole idea behind The Secret takes advantage of what is just a very sad truth that is really hard to dispute, which is most people are lazy. And that's the reality. Most human beings are just lazy. They won't do the work it requires to succeed. So, and again, if I've lost you at this point, sorry. There could be nobody left, but hopefully you're still around. The even sadder reality is that most news sites today seem to reward that laziness. And the reason I say today in parentheses there is ultimately, as more and more people have access to technology, the technology gets better, fake news is eventually going to be something that's out of fashion. But right now, a lot of people succumb to it. So the good news here today is that if you're ready to do the work, if you're ready to work hard, the information I'm going to talk about here could actually save you years of frustration. And if that didn't scare you off, I assume you want to make some money or maybe build a career as a news and political blogger or talk show host or video host or something like that. And you want to do good work. And this is key here, is that you want the good work, respect, and admiration that comes from doing good, accurate journalism. If you just want the quick fix, if you just want the high, if you just want the clicks, again, it's pretty easy to get. You just do clickbait. But I'm here to tell you a secret that I've been around for 10 years, and there's people who've been doing this who certainly have more followers than I do or are more financially successful. I look at every host on MSNBC. Yeah, falls into those categories, and I wouldn't trade places with them for anybody in the world because I want to be respected by people. I've got a long-term play here, people who want the truth. So now let's get back to you. I assume that you're here because you're stuck, right? And that what you're doing now isn't working. You're either not building a following, you're not gaining traction, you're not getting the acclaim you'd like, you aren't nearly as successful as you could be, or maybe you're new and you just literally don't have any idea where to start at all. So here's the news flash. It's not just you. This is important to understand. It is not just you. The odds of succeeding are overwhelming. And I'm going to give you some statistics here. Here's the bad news. Ready? This is going to freak you out. And by the way, these statistics, I'm going to point out something. The stats I'm about to show you, these are from like a year ago. I didn't recheck them before. I was trying to get everything together. And I didn't recheck them. I'm sure it's worse now. But let's talk about the way things were a few months ago. Ready? There's nearly 3 million. That's 2,730,000 new blog posts every day. Every single day, that's how many new blog posts go up, okay? Now, not all the posts are about news or politics, obviously, but however, that doesn't actually make any difference, because even if somebody's posting a blog post about their cute kittens or whatever, it's still competing with people for an audience and attention. Do you understand? People, in other words, your competition isn't just news. It's Netflix. It's a baseball game. It's pictures of attractive people with six-pack abs or whatever. It's all the things that can distract people. And the stats don't include, that nearly 3 million blog posts doesn't include videos, Facebook posts, tweets, and everything else. So, I'm not trying to depress you, but I want you to be really realistic on what the odds are here of your story getting traction and you getting your piece of the pie. Here's by the way, here's a quick freaky side note. 300 hours of video get uploaded to YouTube every minute. I'm going to say that again. Every minute, over 300 hours of video is posted, right? So you're up against a huge tidal wave of information. So no wonder you're having trouble getting traction, right? That's the world you're up against. You're in the world of information, you're a flea on a surfboard and a tidal wave's coming in, right? So how can you and your work stand out and compete? This is the secret that I'm going to tell you. With all the competition, how can your work stand out and compete? Ready? Here comes the secret. Original content. Now, if this doesn't seem like a revelation, let me point out it absolutely is. Original content is your secret weapon. It's my secret weapon. It's what I've been doing again. I've been earning a living doing this for 10 years. Now here's more good news. Since I gave you some bad news, here's more good news. Most of the content that's being posted every day, that 3 million blog posts and tweets, is not original content. I'm going to say that again. It's not original content. Now go look at a news site, and I mean the big ones, and see how much content is the same content as everybody else. Now, Jack, let me ask you to just pull up a website. Just pull up Breitbart News, my old employer, right? What you'll find, if we just look at the front page of Breitbart, and by the way, I could do the same thing for HuffPost or anybody else. Well, pull up Breitbart. Tell me when that's up. Okay, so let's take a look at that. And do you see any stories that say report, Jack, that start with the word report? I'm not looking at the page right now. But just scroll down and see if you see the word report on anything. Here's a hint. When Breitbart does a story that says report, that means they're just completely reusing somebody else's content. for reasons that I'll say in a second. Let's go to, but if you look at the top, if you look at some of the top stories, now go to the Huffington Post, a different site on the left, right? When you go to HuffPo, what you're going to see is the stories that they're talking about are a lot of the same stories that you'll see on HuffPo. They have a different take on it, but a lot of it's exactly the same, okay? So, a lot of what you're seeing here, this non-original content, there's actually a word for it in the world of news, which is the word, if we go back to the PowerPoint now, the word is aggregation, right? It's aggregated content. And I got to tell you, when I was over at Breitbart, most of the writers that they have in their employ now, and the reason I say now is I guarantee you they're going to hit a bubble and they're going to lose these writers, are going to be people who are aggregating stories. They're rewriting other people's stories. Now, by the way, let me just say one thing, Jack, if you can just go here for a second. I'm going to exclude a friend of mine, Brandon Darby, from this. Brandon does original work, right? Brandon, he is the Breitbart Texas team. He's up there doing original work, which is part of the reason he's about the only guy who's over there who's a writer and reporter who was around when Andrew Breitbart was alive. Everybody else is gone, right? And one of the reasons is because he's found a niche doing original work. And by the way, a lot of people think the Brandon section is their favorite part. So let me tell you briefly about a little bit more about my work as a journalist. As a journalist, I've covered original stories. So the Syrian crisis that we're dealing with now, I went to Lebanon in 2013. I was reporting on that. The story Andrew's talking about was the Pigford story. Andrew and I worked on the Pigford story for a couple of years. Then after Andrew died, the New York Times did a front page story. Find the story after, find the Everybody Got Pigford Wrong. Find that one, Jack. Talk about eating crow. This is the great thing about doing accurate journalism. Very few people ever get this charge. Tell me when you got that up. So here's the story. After Andrew died, I gave a reporter for the New York Times my whole thing. The New York Times did a front page above the fold story. That means top of the front page. And they were forced to admit that they were wrong. Now, I got to say, for a new media journalist, and I might add high school dropout, it's a little more complex than that. I dropped out of high school to start college when I was 15, but I am technically a high school dropout. That's the most satisfying thing in the world, is for everybody to admit that you're right. And by the way, we're starting to get that on this Syria story. I've been reporting on it for 5 years, and people are starting to realize the government's lying to them. Even the president, I got to say this, even the president's starting to realize this, I think. I really do. So, the problem here is as old as journalism itself. This goes back to the early days of journalism. I've been reading about a guy named W.T. Stead. He's one of the founders of journalism back in the 1800s. He died in the Titanic. And this is the same problem. It's always been going on. Here's the paradox of journalism, okay? The paradox is this. Everybody's out there doing aggregation, okay? So everybody is repeating the same stories. You've noticed this, right? So if you do original content, you actually stand out in that sea of aggregation. If you're doing original content, your work stands out. And this is the big secret. So let's just define that term a little bit more, right? Like what does original content mean? Original content means to me original reporting on stories that everybody else is getting wrong. Because if everybody's getting the story right, they don't need you, correct? Does that make sense? So I've always gone against the grain. This is my secret. I've gone against the grain. This is why I ended up working for Breitbart when Andrew Breitbart couldn't get on Fox. I work for Sputnik, which is Russia now, and everyone hates Russia because I'm doing this against the grain thing because my work stands for itself. Now, I'm not suggesting you rush out and work for Russia or anything like that. Original content means covering the big stories that other people are simply missing. And you can do this now. You can do this now. And the reason I had you get stuff to write with is because we're going to go over some techniques for this. Original content means getting the story right when everybody else gets it wrong. And believe it or not, they don't teach this in journalism school. It sounds crazy. Why wouldn't they teach you how to do original content and original reporting? This is why journalism, frankly, sucks today. And you know it, right? You're here because you know journalism is bad and you want to make it better, right? You have an interest in making it better. So the good news, more good news here is you can learn to do this. This is a teachable skill. This is something that you can do. And like I have done, you can do it over and over and over again and build a career that gets you noticed. Doesn't always mean loved, but it will get you noticed and will get you respected. And you will be the person who people go, okay, well, they get stories right. And trust me, that's the person you want to be. You can get a lot of clicks BSing people now, but that's not who you want to be long term. So Citizen Journalism School is something I put together that shows all the secrets that I have. I don't hold anything back to doing truly original reporting and getting stories right over and over and over again. Okay? Now, let's go over a few secrets right now. Grab that pencil, grab a piece of paper, computer, phone, I don't care how you write. Let's do this. Ready? So let's do a little bit of work here. So, first off, let me just ask, how's everybody doing? Just check. Can you see the chat there, Jack?
Yes.
Let me just check the chat myself. Because I've been hitting you guys with a bunch of stuff here, but broadly speaking, how's everybody doing? Well? Oh, there they are. I was looking for my glasses. I'm just going to hop in and... Oh, do I have a way to look at chat? I'm not sure I do.
Should.
I know you do. I don't think I can do that on the iPad, Jack.
I see. Good, good.
Everyone's good? Okay, good. So let's get to some work here, okay?
Good, good.
Okay. So the first thing is I want you to stop and I want you to write down a list of a couple of ideas just off the top of your head of where you are and what you know. I want you to think about your unique advantages. I'm gonna give you a little bit of time to think about this while I drink some water. But I'll give you an example. When I started doing journalism, I was working at Access Hollywood. I lived in Southern California. And the first story I worked on was the John Edwards affair. And that's where he was caught at the Beverly Hilton Hotel coming out of a hotel room in the middle of the night, and he hid in the bathroom. So I'll talk about this in a second, but I lived in driving distance of the Beverly Hilton. So are there any stories, write this down, I want you to think about this. Are there any stories in the news cycle right now that are big that you have any connection to? If it is, just write it down. Whether it's physical proximity, insider knowledge, maybe it's the Second Amendment story is huge right now. Maybe you're an expert on guns. Maybe you were in the military. Maybe it's the Barbara Bush story is big in the news right now. It's not going to be a long story. Maybe you live in Houston. So just right now, for our purposes, just write down any advantage you have, anything you're close to that's in the news right now, any special knowledge you might have. We're going to start from where you are. Does that make sense? And I want you to get your creative juices flowing. This one's real easy, right? Okay, next. Think about that a little bit more. Write down anything else. Then we'll move on to the next one. Now, the next big secret here is to look for big stories. So let me talk about Syria. When I went to Lebanon in 2013, I could see what was happening, and I could see there was a refugee crisis. This is before anybody here was talking about it. And I'll talk about how I got to that story in a minute. But I could see that this civil war in Syria was not going to go away anytime soon. And I could see that they were trying to wipe out Christianity. They weren't just killing Christians. And that the U.S. was funding it. And so I could see that it was going to lead to an uptick in terrorism because I could already see it. And I could see the refugee crisis. And those are big stories. So ask yourself now, and any answer you give is okay. Write down what you think the biggest story in the world is right now. And when I mean big, I don't mean today, because that might be the death of Barbara Bush, let's say. But that's not, there's no long-term consequences to that, right? Maybe you think it's the Russiagate story. Maybe you think President Trump will be impeached. Maybe you think it's James Comey, because maybe you think he'll be indicted. I don't know what it is. Maybe you think it is the Syria thing. Just think about it for a second. There's no right or wrong answer here. And you might change your mind later. But I want you to think about what you think the biggest story is. So take a second and just write that down. And don't worry here about whether you can cover it or not. Just think about what the biggest story is. Maybe it's driverless cars, or I don't know. I don't know what it is. Okay? So, hang on one second. Okay, so this next hint, this is a big secret. This is called piggybacking. And piggybacking is the best way to this is as close as I'm going to get to a shortcut. If you want to start making headway quickly, take a story that's big in the news cycle that you think is going to last a few days and start doing original work on it. Okay? So this goes back to the first couple things we said. What are the advantages that you have? Right? So, if you, I'm going to make something up. Let's say you're in Houston or close to it there, and the Barbara Bush funeral that's coming up on Friday. It's now Wednesday when I'm doing this. You've heard that there are going to be protesters there. You can start to get ahead of that now and piggyback on that. So you start doing research. Maybe you find the site where one of these protesters are going to be. I'm making all of this up. I'm just trying to give you an example of something that's in the news cycle right now. Or maybe there was a Southwest tragedy where someone died on the plane when the engine exploded. Maybe you worked on, engines in the military. Maybe you knew somebody who was on the flight. So the whole idea here is, now just think about this. Is there a story in the news cycle right now? Forget what's big long term. Just something big. Stormy Daniels, whatever. I don't care what it is. It doesn't have to be important. Is there something that you have some ability to piggyback on right now? Think about it. Write that down. And if you don't come up with one immediately, keep going through and try to come up with one. Okay? Now, the next hint I'm going to give you here is go on location. This goes back to what I said before about the John Edwards story. I actually went to the Beverly Hilton. Why did I do that? So this goes back to one of the things I said earlier, which is that people are lazy, right? If you look at some people, that you'll see a lot of people who are getting in on news events, and they just go where the news event is. And that's what they're getting traction on. And by the way, I don't always think they do good work. You have to do good work when you get there. But just people are getting clicks from going on location, right? Very few people will do this because most people are lazy. So I ask where you're starting and what you have for resources. And let me give you one other hint here. You can go on location virtually sometimes. But like, why did it matter that I went to the Beverly Hilton? Because when I went there and I saw where the hotel was, not where the hotel was, where the restroom that John Edwards hid in was, it made sense to me like, oh, I see. He was coming down here and he ran over to this bathroom. See, I had also called the police. I also called the Beverly Hills police to confirm that he'd hid in the bathroom. And again, very few people will make that call. Be that person, okay? And this gets to the next hint here. You don't control your luck, and you don't control your talent. Does that make sense? In other words, there are people who are more talented than you are, and luck, good luck or bad luck, you don't have a lot of control over. But you do control how hard you work. Does that make sense? The key to good research is actually working harder. I'm going to tell you a story. They did a thing a few years ago. It was people for a math exam. And they had them fill out this long questionnaire just about where you're from, what's your level of education, your gender, and so on. But it was really long. What they found was the people who filled out the whole questionnaire did better at math on the math test. In other words, the people who actually took the time to go through and fill out everything on this survey did better at math. Because if you think about math, a lot of it is stick-to-itiveness. And this gets to the one of the other big points I want to make here, which is never quit. You know, the serious story I've been working on for 5 years and trying to get traction on it. And I've gotten some traction, but not the traction I would like. But here it is again. It rolls around again. The Bill Browder story, if you follow my work at all, I don't give up on stories. Pigford, I'm not done on Pigford, quite frankly. I never give up on stories. So these two things, working harder than other people. I said this to one of my kids the other day. They were thinking of just something a little on the lazy side. And I said, look, you control how hard you work. And as a journalist, the one thing you can control is how hard you work. It's easy to look at other people who are frankly lazy. And there's a lot of lazy reporters out there. But I'm telling you, they come and go. And in this era we live in right now, when more people are trying to figure out the truth, being the person who delivers the truth makes a big difference. So there's a few exercises. Now, I don't want to take, but we're already almost to the time I had allotted for this. Look, the good news here is you can actually make a difference and make a living. I'm going to name two people right now. I'm not saying they endorse this class or anything like that, but I'll mention Luke Rosiak at the Daily Caller. Luke has been working on the Awan Brothers story. We've had him on my radio show a number of times. He's doing original reporting, great work, and he's testified in front of Congress. Now, other people have worked on that story, and I don't know how they're doing in terms of hits or anything else, but Luke's the guy who gets the story right consistently. That's who you want to be. The other person I'll mention is this guy, I don't know him at all, but Pearson Sharp over at One America News Network, who's over in Syria right now and doing great work. So what I want to mention now to you is this thing called Citizen Journalism Mentorship. And Citizen Journalism Mentorship is where I work one-on-one with people to meet their goals. I'll explain what the details are on it in a second. But once again, I'll tell you, the same way I said at the beginning, this isn't for everybody. The mentorship is definitely not for everybody. And bad news, or good news, you're going to need to apply. This is not a program. Citizen Journalism School, I'll talk about it in a second. That's open to anybody. You sign up, just self-paced class, you sign up. The mentorship, I need to talk to you first. You're going to need to fill out and the reason I do this is that we need to make sure the class, because I'm going to tell you what it is in a second. I want to make sure I don't waste my time or your time. Very important. So the application process is a short survey about who you are, what you're up to, and then you and I will talk on the phone. Okay? Now, I'm going to point out, I mentioned this before, I did not go to traditional journalism school, thank God, because traditional journalism school actually is a detriment to you getting the story right, in my opinion. Also, traditional journalism school cost, look it up, don't take my word for this, a 4-year journalism school is between $50,000 and $150,000, or $200,000 actually, because I just repriced it before we did this. By the time you cover living expenses and everything else, and a lot of the people I knew over at Breitbart didn't go to journalism. Brandon Darby, who's doing the best work over at Breitbart, didn't go to journalism school. So I created Citizen Journalism School, and let's just bring that up, citizenjournalismschool.com. It's a self-paced online program that includes also free live events. It's video training. We have, just show people the backstage so they can see the variety of courses at Citizen Journalism School. And I'm going to give you another thing. We have a new class coming up on broadcasting. This is not fully edited yet or anything, but let's just show them a little bit of that, Jack, whenever you're ready. Tell me, let me know. And this is just a little bit of an upcoming course we have. Close into a microphone, and particularly for radio, it works well. For podcasting, it might work well if you got a mount where you can get in close. A lot of times, if I'm using that distance mic that we've shown you, the Yeti mic, I can't do this. Particularly if I'm doing a video broadcast, I can't do it at all. But here's what it is. So you'll hear me do this all the time. I'll be like, it's Fault Lines with Nixon and Stranahan. So what I'm doing there is I'm out here. I'm back a little bit. It's Fault Lines. I can tell the volume of my voice. And also, by the way, if things ever get intense with Garland on the show, where I'm really arguing, I will very intentionally move myself back. Garland, come on. What are you talking about? So I move myself back there because if I yell like that into this microphone, first off, the engineer's going to yell at me. That's just the truth. So I just wanted you to see that, so you just get a little sample of the kind of stuff. You know, we get into everything from broad research topics to computer hints to there. I'm doing something on microphone technique and doing broadcasting, stuff I've learned from being a radio host. But if you're not interested in doing radio, we talk about writing. Again, my resume is kind of unique in that I've done a lot of different things. And I don't know what you want to do. That's maybe another thing to write down is what do you think about it? What do you want to do? You know, is your goal to be a White House reporter? Because I've done that, and I'll do it again. You know, I've been in the White House press briefing room, right? A number of times, asked questions in the White House press briefing room. I've traveled overseas. I've covered events nationally. Again, I've done video, print, radio. I've been interviewed on CNN and InfoWars and MSNBC and all over the place. Now, Citizen Journalism School, that program, it's self-paced online, and it's not 50 grand or anything like that. It's for citizens, so it's only $549 a year. And in fact, if you go over to citizenjournalismschool.com, again, there's no application process for that. You can just sign up right now if you're interested. And a lifetime membership is actually only $1,500. And again, if you've priced like community college, you couldn't do a semester at a community college in a lot of places for $1,500. This means any updates we do in the future, there's already hours and hours of material up there, but any updates you can get in. Now, the mentorship program, let me explain what it is before I tell you what it costs. The mentorship program is totally different. The mentorship program does not have a set curriculum. I talk to you. You have my phone number. You have my email address. You already have those. But if you call, I pick up the phone, or if I can't pick up the phone, I call you back. I directly, and by the way, this program works, and I know that because we've had people who've been through it who are now writing for big sites. This is for people who really want to make a move and want to get rolling and want to get turbocharged results right away and want to skip, are ready to do the work but want to get going right away. So for instance, if you're writing, I'll read your writing and I'll edit it and I'll make suggestions on how to, I would format it differently. I would structure the article differently. I think you need more research here. I wouldn't phrase it that way. You're free to take or leave the advice, but I give good advice because I've done this for a while. It's the same thing if you're doing periscopes or if you're doing audio, whatever you're doing. Now, the mentorship program is, next week, the price is going to be $5,000. And again, I got to say, it's a complete bargain because, quite frankly, it's the thing I wish I had had when I got started. By the time I met Andrew Breitbart, I'd been going for like 3-4 years, and I'd made a lot of mistakes. One of the great things about doing this for 10 years is I've screwed up. I know what I would do differently. I know how to negotiate. I'll put it like this. If you're looking to get a job, the $5,000 fee, you could actually make that up in negotiating your fee, because that's the level of specificity I get to. It's whatever you want. If you want to do broadcast, if you want to do writing, if you want to just do blogging, if you want to start your own media company, it's a one, like I say, literally, it's a one-on-one program. I work directly with you. Now, the price is going to be $5,000 because basically I can't do this except for a couple of people at a time, and my time is worth something. And by the way, how long does it last? It lasts as long as it needs to for you to get the results you need. So there's also no real clock on it. It could take you a few months. It could take you a year, whatever. And some people, they'll talk to me for a few months, and then we talk less. We talk more at the beginning, then less as they get their legs under them. But that's what it is. It's really a program that's designed from the ground up to help you be successful. But right now, the mentorship program is $3,000. It ends this week, whether I fill these 2 slots or not. This is what it's been, and it includes the lifetime membership in Citizen Journalism School. So really, that's a $1,500 value right there. And I got to tell you, there's no journalism school in the world that gives you what we give you, which is a guarantee. And the guarantee is real simple. I have a company. I run it with my family. Run it with my kids. And we've made it really easy. If people aren't happy, we refund their money. Because I don't want to get into a complex thing about like why you're not happy, or you're not happy, you're not happy. So we refund your money, we part friends, and we go on from there. And I guess some people might take advantage of us with that. Okay. We save time in the long run by doing it that way. That's the guaranteed. Now, one of the things that I show you in Citizen Journalism School is how to predict where the news cycle is going. This is a valuable skill to have. You need to know where stories are going. Andrew Breitbart and I used to talk about this all the time. So let me make a prediction right now for you. If you're thinking about this, let me just make a prediction for you. If you don't make a change, if you're stuck, if you're thinking about doing news, becoming a reporter, doing journalism, if you don't start to change something, if you keep doing the same thing you've been doing, nothing's going to change in your life. So the question becomes, are you ready to make a change? If what you're doing isn't working, you need to try something new, right? Or nothing is going to change. Oops, I misspelled this here. Once the 2 slots are filled, not one. Once the 2 slots are filled, at whatever price we fill them at, it's $3,000 this week, it goes up next week. I don't know when I'm going to bring this back because it's a unique program and I could raise the price again. There's going to be a point where I have to. because my dance card's getting full. So here's your chance to make a difference in your life right now. Oops, and get another misspelling. I was doing so well, too, right up till the last 2 slides. And get the skills that you need. I'm gonna tell you again, my phone number, my email address. If you're interested in the mentorship program, either call me or write to me. And again, we only have 2 slots at this. It's not a guaranteed acceptance program. You have to get in touch with me first. If you're interested, we'll start to work with you, and we'll have a phone call, and if it seems right, then we'll get this going. But I want people who are serious and who don't want to make mistakes, who want to save a ton of time, who want to save a bunch of money, and are really interested in doing great journalism. And the reason why is because the world needs great journalism. We see now with what's going on in Syria, the state of the world right now, bad journalism causes a lot of problems. And it's what I'm passionate about. It's what I'm obsessed about. If you're ready to start doing this, I think I can help you. I think I have the experience in a variety of ways. And by the way, if I don't think I can help you, I won't. I mean, again, that's part of what it is it's not just for you to get to know me, it's for me to get to know you. And if I'm like, I don't think I can help you do what you want, I won't even take your money. We'll just move from there. So that's what it is. If you're interested in going, email me, call me. We'll get the time to talk set up. If you have any questions about this, or just go over to citizenjournalismschool.com right now and sign up. The best deal is absolutely the lifetime membership. If you have any questions about anything, don't hesitate to give me a call or email. And that's it. I want to make sure, look at that. We finished about on time. Again, the best way to do the questions, because I can't see the chat right now, is for you just to get in touch. But anyway, that's it. And hopefully I got you thinking a little bit about what you want to do. I'm really, like I say, I really care about this stuff. And I hope to talk to you soon. Till next time, my name's Lee Stranahan. Thanks, everybody, for taking the time. Hopefully I got your gears turning. And go out there and do great work. Till next time, I'm Lee Stranahan. Bye-bye.